Today we're going to show you how to create a stunning portrait using DIY lighting for under $50. Hey guys, and welcome to Phlearn. My name is Aaron Nace, and you can find me on Phlearn.com, where we make learning Photoshop and photography fun. And I'm so excited about today's episode. We're going to show you how to create a stunning portrait using DIY lighting for under $50. This video is geared towards anyone who's interested in starting studio photography but doesn't have a ton of money to invest in studio lights. Not only that, but beginners really need to be able to see what their light's actually doing to a person in a portrait. So using continuous lighting is a great way to learn. In this video, we're going to show you our DIY lighting kit that we've assembled for under $50. It's accessible to just about anyone. We're also going to talk about some key points when it comes to lighting a portrait. We're going to show you the difference between a main light, a fill light, and an accent light. And then we're going to show you some great tips when working with your subject so you can get a photo that really captures who they are. Then we'll bring it all together to do a photo shoot and see what kind of amazing portraits we can get using this simple DIY lighting kit. When choosing the perfect light for this DIY lighting kit, we had three criteria in mind. The first was cost. We didn't want these lights to be too expensive. We wanted everyone to be able to afford this DIY lighting kit. The second is that we decided to use continuous lights instead of strobes. That way you could actually see what you're doing. And the third is we wanted a light that's not going to produce much heat. That way you can use things like gels to change the color or use your own lighting modifiers to shape the light. The lights that we chose for our DIY lighting kit you can actually see and use right behind me. They're low-profile fluorescent lights that we ordered from Amazon. We got these lights for $15 a piece, and you may be able to find cheaper versions in other stores. Not only that, but with these particular lights, you can actually daisy chain them together, which means you can use multiple different lights with the same power cord. So now that we know what lighting we're using for our DIY lighting kit under $50, it's time to talk about some lighting basics. We're going to show you guys the difference between a main light, a fill light, and an accent light. The first light we're going to talk about is our main light, also known as a key light. Now, this light with a portrait is going to light the majority of the subject's face. It's usually going to be the brightest light, and it's also usually going to be the largest light as well, making sure that it really does a great job illuminating your subject. The next light is called the fill light, and its main job is to fill in the shadows left behind by the main light. Generally, you want this to be a little bit farther away from your subject and a little bit less bright. And the last light is an accent light. It's used to basically accent different areas of the photo. You'll commonly see it right above a subject. In that case, it's called a hair light, or beside the subject. In that case, it's called a rim light, bringing accent to those dark areas. Yeah, then chin this way. Chin down a little bit more. Cool. And the last little thing to cover are lighting modifiers. Now, when you're using professional strobes, you'll have things like grids and flags and barn doors and all kinds of other fancy stuff. Now, if you guys are using these fluorescent lights, you can get a lot of the same effects using something simple like gaffer tape or black duct tape. In this case, if we want to control how large or small the lights are, or if we want to make sure they only point in one particular direction, we can actually just use black tape to tape off the areas we don't want light showing through. Now that our lighting is all set up, it's time to start working with your subject. That's just as important as light. So here are a couple of tips that are going to help you work with your subject a little bit better. Our first posing tip is to have your subject look towards the main light. It's actually going to do a really nice job of defining the facial features and making them look a little bit more attractive. So in this case, we're using the light on the right side of our frame as our main light. And as our subject moves towards that light, you can see what a great job it does of actually defining his face. Anyone who's been on this side of the camera knows that it can be super intimidating to have your portrait taken. One thing I like to do is have my subject look a little bit away from the camera. That way they don't feel the intimidation of a giant camera pointing right towards them. The third big tip has to do with your subject's expressions. Now, a lot of people feel like your subject has to be making this big, beautiful smile in an image in order for it to actually be a good portrait, but I find that's really not the case. Instead, I like to capture those candid moments during a photo shoot. They tend to be a lot more natural and give a better sense of who the subject actually is than a fake smile. So now we're going to jump into a photo shoot so you can see everything we just talked about in action. We're going to be moving our lights around as well as working with our subject to get the best possible portrait using DIY lighting for under $50. Look that way a little bit more. Back towards me with your eyes. Head this way. Yep. Chin up. All right, and eyes out that way a little more. Getting somewhere. A couple hours of Photoshop. Yeah. Whew. You tearing Tinder up. Oh my God. Say right there. You're doing great. I just need to move this. Keep looking forward if you wouldn't mind. So if you guys want to try this out for yourself, here's what you need to know. Remember when using lights to use a main light, a fill light, as well as an accent light to get the most out of your portrait. Just have your subject look towards the main light. It's going to bring out their facial features in the best way possible. When working with your subject, don't try to force them to smile. A lot of the time you can get a much more natural look with a candid photo. Join us in our next episode where we're going to show you guys how to take the portraits from this episode and bring them to their fullest potential in Photoshop. And if you like what we're doing here at Phlearn and you'd love to learn more Photoshop and photography for free, all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're sending out free Photoshop and photography tutorials every single week. And if you have an idea for an episode or a comment about today's episode, leave it in a comment right down below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll Phlearn you later. Bye, everyone.